Hello and welcome to another episode of Mom Powers. I'm your host, Coleen Krubl. Today I have with me Rachel Szostek. I know I did not say that correctly. I'll give her the opportunity to say it correctly here in just a moment. So Rachel is the mother of two young boys, ages 6 and 4. And so I'll turn it over to you for the moment and let you introduce yourself, say your name correctly, and tell us a little bit about your boys.
I'm Rachel Szostek. I have two boys. Josiah is 6 and Judah is 4. And Josiah, he has...
Yeah, the reason I asked Rachel to join us today is because Josiah has autism, but you were also saying global...
Yeah, so there's usually a lot of what we call comorbid diagnoses.
Okay.
With autism, you tend to see some other things pop up, and so he has sensory processing disorder and global developmental delays and PTSD. So those are sort of wrapped up in the diagnoses, and a lot of parents will just say autism spectrum disorder or autism.
Okay.
But when you look at the full spectrum, some kids will have like gut issues or other things that come with it, and those are kind of like his special things.
Okay. So when you were telling me this before we were filming, you mentioned the PTSD, and for those of you who may not know, that stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. But why is that associated with autism? Where does that come into play?
That popped up out of, there was an event that happened that was really traumatic for my son, and so things that like wouldn't normally be traumatic for you or me, sometimes an autistic brain processes those differently. And so,
do you mind talking about when Josiah was first born and first diagnosed, how that hit you, and what was the range of emotions? What did you do?
Yeah, well, Josiah was diagnosed around 3 years old, which is pretty early for an autism diagnosis. We were lucky; we had an early Head Start folks that came to our home and did screenings, and after he failed 3 screenings, they were like, okay, let's see what's going on. We got him into speech therapy, and then from there, the speech therapist referred us here to OU for testing.
Okay. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention at the beginning, we are filming today at Ohio University in the Women's Center, so thank you to the Women's Center. And we have a fabulous all-ladies crew working behind the scenes today, also from OU, so thank you. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. Okay. Yeah, so we... he was born, and it wasn't particularly noticeable when he was born.
Okay.
But he was a tough baby. He didn't sleep. He cried a lot. I think it was around 18 months that we finally started getting sleep again, which is not uncommon for parents in general. But by the time we went through testing, we knew something was off. He wasn't talking. He wasn't playing like the other kids.
How so? What do you mean by that?
He was more isolated. He wasn't there wasn't a lot of back and forth activity with the other kids, but he made eye contact and he was really sociable. So it kind of slipped through that first screening we had with Help Me Grow. And then after he was in speech therapy, the speech therapist said, I think this might be autism. And I wanted to throw her through the wall when she said that, because we are so conditioned to believe that autism or disability diagnoses are this horrible, terrible thing. But we went ahead and did the testing, and by the time they came back, they do a couple full days of testing, which is play-based, so it's not like your kid's sitting in a room checking boxes or something.
Right.
But then they all meet together as a team. So there's a speech therapist and occupational therapist and a physical therapist and a psychologist. They all sit together and talk about the case and say, okay, here's what we found. Let's compare notes and make a diagnosis. So,
is there one person that kind of heads up that team, though? Leads the process?
Yeah, so there's a woman here named Sue Meeks. She's part of what's called a Family Navigator program, and she helps the families get connected with this sort of clinic that does the diagnostics. It's through Nationwide Children's. And so
do they have a satellite location here in Athens?
They come down to do, I'm not quite exactly sure how it works, but I know they come down and do the screenings because we're a really underserved area. We don't have a lot of resources here. So they do the screenings, and then you come back a month or 2 later. We squeezed in a video conference because it was right before Christmas and we didn't want to have to miss the holidays.
Right.
So, and by the time we came to that, we were like, if it's not autism, well, then what is it? Because there's something he needs that we're obviously struggling to provide. So it wasn't a huge surprise for us at that point, but it took time to process, and it took my husband longer. Husbands, it takes longer to process. Just they take longer. But at that point, it was, you sit there and you say, I don't want my kid to be labeled. But if your kid really has needs, that label is the best thing you could possibly ask for.
It opens doors to resources? Is that what you mean?
Resources, funding,